Hey, everybody. Welcome to Warrior Talk with Brant Fricker and Heather Thomas Van Deren. We've got a lot to cover today. I am so excited to be here. We're excited to have you here. We're going to recap some of the stuff from last week, and I'm going to let Brant take care of that because you're the dude, man.
Well, Heather, I'm happy to be the dude
You're
with
the
you
dude.
on Warrior Talk. There's a lot of momentum going all around right now, Heather. Excitement. Yeah. I long for this 24 years ago when we started Band of Brothers in Tulsa, and again, but this process of becoming a warrior for men and women, it's a sevenfold process. We talked about most of it in the last Warrior Talk, Heather, but
Right.
I'll name them again, and then we'll tackle the last three. Okay, but that's awaken, arise, ask, acquire. Okay, arrive, apply, and advance. Awaken to the battle. Right, we're in a spiritual battle between good and evil, folks. Like it or not, you're right in the middle of it. And like
Yeah.
Dylan says, it may be the devil, it may be the Lord, but you're going to have to serve somebody. You're serving somebody. There's no room on the fence in this deal. But awaken to the spiritual battle. Arise to do something about it. You got to take action. You're not here by accident. Of course, ask Jesus to sit on the throne of your heart. When you do, he will. Everything comes into balance. You've seen the graphic maybe where one circle, there's all this chaos, and somewhere in there's the cross, and it's chaos. The other circle, the cross is in the middle, and everything's in perfect balance. Well, that's how it happens when you ask Jesus to sit on the throne of your heart, and then acquire his wisdom through his word. I was talking to a couple last night, and they're realizing that these young people are saying, "Hey, grandma and grandpa and mom and dad, it looks like they're right about good and evil. Look at the television. Look what they're trying to do, in this country and around the world." Well, the Bible is true. Acquire his wisdom through his word. And of course, in his word, as you well know, Heather, if you ask the Lord for wisdom, he'll give it to you. He really
That's
will.
right.
And the next thing, though, that we're going into right now, the last three, arrive. Arrive. It doesn't mean, oh, yes, I've arrived.
On my
Uh,
pony.
We've known people like that. Maybe we've been people like that sometimes. I've arrived. Well,
Yeah.
we're going to be a work in progress forever. Thank you for Jesus. But what we're talking about today, arriving, is coming together. Now, it's easy to be a lone wolf out there, especially in ministry. You know what I mean? Or maybe you've been hurt enough times. I saw this bumper sticker, Heather, that said, "God save me from your children." you know, sometimes sometimes it's easy to feel that way, but
Mhm.
real Jesus people, it won't be that way. Real Jesus people who love you, who want the best for you. They're not religious per se, but they're Jesus people,
Yeah.
relationship.
I
Um, yeah, yeah. So when you arrive, come together. We've been doing these meetings in the Midwest and West Texas, and they're only building. You mentioned talking about it in our next Warrior Talk, Heather, but these gatherings, you hear a lot. Do not forsake the assembly of the brethren. Well, that's used mostly today with church, but folks, when you realize that the church is you, not just a building, the ecclesia, it means the called out ones. That's where they get the word church. It's you. Well, then you can arrive together. You could be on your couch, and around the tables and all that, sitting together, reading the word together, praying together, fellowshipping together. Arrive. And I'm not sure if we talked about this before, Heather, but what percent of the time is a rocket on course when NASA shoots it somewhere? What percent of the time is it on course?
Well, I don't know.
Well, I didn't know either.
I mean, I would think that it would be, well, no. Go ahead. Tell me what you found out because I don't know that one.
When NASA shoots a rocket somewhere to the moon, whatever, it's only on course 2% of the time. Two.
Wow.
The rest of the time it's being adjusted. Okay. Well, when you arrive to fellowship with one another, then the Jesus people in your life,
Yeah.
they help keep you on track. We may be on track only 2% of the time. One of our next points that you're going to talk about is our direction, right? Being obedient. Well, we're only on track 2% of the time, but it's not a hard thing to stay on track when you arrive together, when you're
Right.
going together, when you're in fellowship with Jesus people that naturally inherently keep you on track, so that you're not in this struggling position. I'm afraid I'm going to sin. No, perfect love casts out all fear. The love of Jesus is how you'll know his disciples. Jesus himself said that you will know my disciples by their love for one another. So when you arrive together, you fellowship together, you're loving one another. Guess what? It's not a chore anymore. You're staying on track, and you're surrounding yourself with people of like mind. Heather, you've heard the scripture that do not be unequally yoked. And you
Yeah.
being a rancher, about yoking, right? Like plowing a field or cattle. Well, a yoke is what keeps you going in the same direction. It's
Mhm.
what pulls the load. A yoke is what keeps you going in the same direction. When you arrive to fellowship and to move forward in Jesus and in the love of Jesus, not in religion, but in relationship with Jesus and one another, just like he prayed in John 15, that they may be one as you and I are one, right?
Yeah.
Then you're arriving in fellowship. Well, that makes it easier to stay on course. The next two are apply and advance. Apply it. You got to apply it first in your own life. There's plenty of people out there that they talk a good talk, but they don't walk a good walk.
For real.
They know the word. They know the word, but they're not living the word. They're not applying it in their life. There was a time, my first big ministry was to be a worship leader. There was some churches looking at me, and of the churches that were looking at me, there was a mega church. It looked like a fantastic opportunity. Okay, but I didn't like the way the pastor treated his wife, and I knew that I would become like the leader that I'm serving. When you arrive and you're in fellowship, moving, you're yoked with other people, you tend to go in the same direction. You tend to become like them if you are helping a leader. So that entire church, they were a little disappointed, and I'm sorry that they were, but I just did not want to be that kind of a man or a leader. Instead, I chose another guy who treated his wife well. And so, applying first in your own private life and then in your public life, operating from the inside out.
Mhm.
Some of the happiest people, Heather, they find happiness from the inside out, not from the outside in, because it never works. If you would just do this, I'd be happy, or if you would just do this, I'd be happy, or if you would just be this, I'd be happy. If you find yourself in that situation, just it's okay. Just stop the world and say, Lord, be my peace, be my source of happiness, my source of joy. Not happenstance, chance or fate, blown back and forth, a victim of life, but I happen to life. I have the joy of the Lord. It has nothing to do with my circumstances, right?
That's right. Circumstances change constantly. They're constantly changing. So if you depended upon your circumstances to dictate your happiness, you would be like this on a roller. It'd be crazy. It
Yeah.
just doesn't even make sense to try, because we know who our stability is and where our stability comes from, and we have the ability to tap into him at any time, day and night. He's there for us all the time, 24/7. We kind of forget, don't we?
It's easy to forget, when the arrows are flying from every direction, where it seems like everything's a battle. It seems like there's no haven. Man, I've been there, been there. But
Yeah.
in the midst of that storm of arrows. We can either crawl up and be a victim, and it's easy to do. We've all done it, I think, or we can stop and say, you know what? The joy of the Lord is my strength.
I love that.
And we can take that Spartan warrior attitude. They really did say the phrase when threatened by Xerxes, our arrows will blot out the sun. They weren't kidding. The response from the Spartans were, then we'll fight in the shade. So you change your life with your mindset. I can't tell you how many times that I was struggling, I was down, or I was in darkness, and I was fighting the good fight the best I could. But I had to stop the world and I said, Lord Jesus, be my strength. And you know how you stop that when you begin to apply His wisdom in your life is you begin to worship. It sounds crazy, but I'm not saying, just break into the latest praise song, maybe. But when I am barraged by arrows and by attacks from every side, and there's a fog of war in this life, and you find the hard truth that those who you thought were your friends, some of them were your enemies, and some of those who you thought were your enemies were actually some of your friends. They just didn't talk a lot, but when I stopped and I said, thank you, Jesus, I began to worship Him with my mouth. I think only a couple of times does the word worship in the Bible mean singing and music, folks. It's a lifestyle.
It's an act.
Yeah. That what in Revelation they overcame by the blood of the Lamb and their testimony.
Their testimony, yes.
Yeah. And what is a testimony? When you're speaking what God has done for you. And when you do that, when you come from that footing, then your test becomes your testimony, and your misery becomes your ministry. So that's applying in your own life. You know what I'm saying?
I do. And I've heard both of those, many, many times. And here's something else too. You were talking about, these axioms for being a warrior and putting them into practice. But here's the deal. When you put them into practice, and number one, your testimony, when you give your testimony, it gives you strength.
It does.
It's like He honors our willingness to go forward in faith and put our feet to our faith, and he strengthens us just by our obedience. I love Him. I love Him so much. I love the way He works with me, and He does it with so many others. Everybody, He knows everybody's intricacies and their differences, but as a whole, when you put your feet to your faith and step out and do what you're called to do, it empowers you. I love it.
I think you just wrote a song. Put your feet to your faith. Put your feet. I can see Heather up there singing right now. Put your feet to your faith. There you go. You better write it down.
I know.
But that's good though. That is good. Some of you know what it's like to literally feel a demonic attack. I'm not talking about walking in a frame of mind where everything's a demon. There's a spirit of the lights going out. There's a spirit of the no. And there are spirits, folks. There are demons. It's a real thing. It really is. Those who know. But when you know that, man, I feel under a spiritual. I mean, now I don't know how any Christian or any believer in Jesus can deny the light and dark and demons, Heather. When you just watch the news, watch what's happening in the world. The Nazi Klaus Schwab, he's a real life Nazi, folks. And you then own nothing, and you then be happy. And they want to mark you and tag you. That's their plan. And folks, some people have no idea. I've got a national TV news show, and we hear and see all the legislation being proposed. From DC, which isn't even a part of the United States anymore. We'll talk about that someday. But also they're making rules for you, but they're not even part of us anymore. It's pure evil, but the Bible is true. So there are demonic attacks. So applying this in your life, you can, and the best way to get your little reset, not a Luciferian satanic reset, but a Jesus reset, is stop, worship. Thank you, God. Count your blessings. Count your blessings. Darkness cannot exist. You will find that your anger, that your hurt, that a demonic oppression that's attempting to discourage you, or some kind of darkness or whatever, it cannot exist in that space when you are worshiping. Try it. I dare you to try it. It can't. It can't. Phil Driscoll said that. I mean, I love Phil, but he's not Jesus. But he said that, and he's right. Phil Driscoll said. So that brings us to the last one, Heather, which is advance. And advancing as a warrior, there's implications with those who would advance the battle. They would go ahead of the army. They would clear the ground. They would clear the trees. I mean, those are big armies. And if you're a Spartan, or other armies like the Romans who copied the Spartans with their flanks, their shields, locking shields, a big machine moving, impenetrable. That's the best I can do with the amount of coffee I've had. But the shields above, the shields in front, and the shields on the side, where your shield wasn't guarding you, your shield was guarding the person next to you. So locking shields. Well, those who advance, and you and I are pioneers, Heather. We're advancers. Those who advance as warriors, right? Well, you clear the ground, you prepare the way. That also includes helping people start at number one, awaken. So those who advance as a warrior will help other warriors awaken, so that they can awaken, arise, ask, acquire, arrive, apply, and advance.
That reminds me also, a lot of people, when they hear this kind of stuff, Brent, they think of masculinity. Okay. They think of the man being protective over the woman, but I have learned that God has called us all to be warriors.
Yeah.
And maybe we will advance in a little bit different manner than a man would advance, but we still have the Holy Spirit in us. And I'm thinking about the Boots on the Ground tour that's going to be coming up the beginning of the year. I love that, because women also need to be empowered. They need to realize that these axioms apply to them, that they can do this too. We have to put on the full armor of God, but everybody's armor is going to fit a little bit different. So we have to step into our calling of what He has for us, and then apply these things to our lives. Our circumstances are different. Our people around us are different. Our locations are different. Everything is different for each one of us. So we can all be fingers and toes for Jesus Christ with where He has called us to be, and still put these things into action.
Well, yeah, and as you said that, Heather, because we've got great material, folks. I mean, it's great material, because it's wisdom, it's from the Lord. But and I can't wait for the next show too. I have a feeling we'll be going more into obedience, the topic of that, into the next show. But while you brought that great point up, let's go through that real quick for the women in the same thing, if you want to, the same visor for women when it comes to this process.
Okay, so you have something in mind then.
Oh yeah, I do. Okay. I do.
Lay on me there, brother.
Let's go to that together. Put on your armor, put on your coat. We're going to go for a trip. We're going to journey this in the context of women, because you're right, Heather. On its own set, it does seem very masculine. Ladies, if you know me at all, you know how much that I have worked, not only with men, but with women, in launching and helping launch ministries, and also promoting women warriors who already have a ministry, who are already seasoned in ministry, like Heather. You're one of those. So Heather, how does a woman awaken, arise, ask, acquire, arrive, apply and advance? I'm glad you asked. Well, if you're a woman, uh, you're already more intuitively sensitive spiritually. You're a warrior, but I personally think, and guys, hey, look, hey, it is what it is, but I can back it up. Uh, there's not much to a guy. Eat, drink, sleep, fight, procreate. That's pretty much all there is to us. We can have the wisdom of the Lord, but we're built a certain way. Women, they can think with both sides of their brains and at the same time. And I think that they have a radar that we don't have, men. I think they're more spiritually intuitive. If your wife says, "Hey, I don't like her," or "Hey, I don't feel right about this," you better listen.
Yeah.
You better listen. But so women, awaken to the battle. Look what they're trying to do to you. They're trying to do to your kids. They're trying to take away your very gender. Forget if you're Republican or Democrat. It's not about that anymore. It's good and evil. Okay.
Right.
I know plenty of Democrats that don't want to be a woman. They want to be a man, or they want to be a woman if that's what they are. So don't mistake the minority for the majority. Okay. No matter where you are on the spectrum, there's still good and evil. And grooming a child for sex is evil. It is. Beating, hurting women and children is evil. Trafficking women is evil. Trafficking children is evil. So you can awaken just by opening your eyes and seeing what's happening around you. That there's a spiritual battle, and Lucifer hates you, women, because you're more beautiful than he is. It really is that simple. He really is that vain. Women were the last and most beautiful creation on the earth. Okay, God didn't make another type of human. Women were it, man. Okay, and so that's why Lucifer hates you, because you're God's most beautiful creation. And so awaken to that spiritual battle. Just open your eyes. That's it. Arise to do something about it. Well, guess what? A lot of you are. During COVID, we learned what our children were really being taught in public schools. Not all teachers are Marxist, but the agenda is, and
Right.
some of them quit because of it. But a lot of you mothers, a lot of you mama bears found out what they're trying to teach your children in kindergarten about sex. That's not reading, writing, arithmetic, history, social. And so you are arising to let your voice be heard and to say no. I tell you what, an angry dad's one thing, but you make mama angry. Look out. Okay. So awaken, look around, arise, let your voice be heard, say what you mean and mean what you say. And women can do that. And then ask the Lord to sit on the throne of your heart. Ladies, a man will never make you happy. He won't. Only Jesus will make you happy. And
Amen.
and why is that? Because that's how it was in the garden. It was Adam and Eve and God. Okay. Part of the curse was to Adam, her desire will be for you. Okay. There's a lot of implications and we won't go into that, but it wasn't sexual desire in that context. Basically, you know what, men, she will look to you to be her source and happiness, and you never will be. Only God can make a woman happy. That's why men, if you take your girl to church, take your wife to church, take your girlfriend to church that you're dating and hopefully will marry, whatever. If you take her to church, there's something special about that. You're reconnecting the daughter of Eve to God. You're reconnecting women to the only source that's going to make or allow her to be happy. Nobody can make you do anything. No one can make you mad, make you sad, make you angry. You choose to give away your peace. That's a whole nother series of talks too for men and women. So you've awakened, you have arisen to let your voice be heard. You've asked the Lord to be your source of happiness, to sit on the throne of your heart, and he will, because he loves you. Okay. Then you acquire his wisdom through his word. Women tend to be more disciplined in reading the Bible than men. I don't know why, but that's what I've seen, in over 41 years of ministry. They just seem to be more hungry and disciplined to do that. Okay. And so acquiring his wisdom and then arriving. Ladies, one of the best ways that you can arrive as warriors with each other is fellowship with each other. Have that cup of coffee while the kids are in school, or if you're not at home while the kids are in school, you're out working and all that, then have that lunch date with that girlfriend.
That's right.
That loves Jesus. And, it's amazing what will happen to your day, women, before all the craziness of getting kids ready in the morning, or whatever. Or if you're trying to handle it by yourself, that's even harder. But you have to make time for yourself to acquire his wisdom. You know, in an airplane, when the pressure drops, they tell you to put the mask on yourself first. Why? Because if you're dad, you can't help your kids. You got to put the mask on. Okay. Be good to yourself, like that old Journey song. Okay. And read the Bible. And of course, apply it. How do you apply it in your life? Well, women, are able to speak it, live it, model it, apply it,
And
uh,
love it.
yeah, it's just
And
true.
love, yeah.
They love. And I tell you what, Heather, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not a creeper and I'm not inappropriate, but I love women. I always have. And since I was a little boy, I love women. I'm like, see my
I
mom's hair,
mean,
stroking her hair. You're so beautiful. My aunt tried to
that,
break me of it, and she pulls up in the car, and I'm sitting in her lap now. She's going, I'm stroking her. You're so beautiful. Love women, respect women. And as I got older, I saw the significance of the threat that women are. Read Revelation. The woman clothed with the sun, with the moon, right? She was with child, and the dragon wanted to devour her. That hasn't changed. And then advance. Well, what do you do that? Advance, like what we talked about, the same way with the men. Friendships, letting your voice be heard, giving your testimony, stepping out, making a stance, even on social media too. I see more women making a stance on social media than men. So that's the context for women as well, and it's not limited to what I just said. Uh,
no, not at all. Yeah, it's incredible. I just um sometimes we just need guys and gals alike. We just need our eyes to be open to understand that we can do all these things, but we can only do it through Christ. We can't in ourselves. That's what we're going to talk about next week is obedience, because in ourselves it's all wrong. We got it wrong. We got it wrong. We're going to crash. But when we take these and apply them to our lives in the context of working for the Lord, allowing him to work through us and being obedient, then we can change the world, guys. We can make a difference. This world might be going to pot, as my mother used to say. She goes, well, this whole world's just going to pot.
yeah, yeah, literally, some states, right?
Literally, yeah. But it might be, but there is so much more good than evil. We're just not putting our armor on and advancing. That's the key. We've got to be involved. We can't just sit by and watch the world go by and go, wow, what a shame, man. This is just a tragedy. And we've got to be the difference. And this helps, Brent. It helps us all learn how to be the difference.
And because there is an afterlife, folks, because this life is not all there is.
Yeah.
Your body's 2 pounds lighter after you die. Your soul goes somewhere. Okay. Almost 2 pounds. But, because there is an afterlife, then this life is a test, but it's also an opportunity to live
Right.
out what God's destined for you. Like Psalm 139, your life has already been written. And so
That's right.
live it loud. This life is not all there is. I saw a meme yesterday that said, if you know Jesus, this life is the closest you'll ever be to hell. And if you
Mhm.
don't know Jesus, this life is the closest you'll ever be to heaven. You know
Mhm.
what? I know
Yeah.
Jesus. I got a great life. It has nothing to do with all the battles I fight every day, but I have a great.
Right.
But someone said, "How you doing, Brent?" A few days ago, and I was exhausted. I was, but I said, "You know what? I'm either up, I'm up or getting up. I'm up or getting up." And so take that mentality: be up or be getting up. And what an incredible time, the sevenfold process for becoming a warrior with you, Heather, and myself, for men and women. And so, a great warrior talk today.
It's been great. I love it. I'm so thankful, Brent, to be partnering with you. And also, I just want to tell the ladies really quick, W3 Network If you want somewhere to be empowered, to get in touch with other ladies that have ministries that are already in force, go to W3 Network on Taken TV.